Hey everyone, I'm Almar of almarsguides.com, and in this video here, I'm going to be talking about the Berserker class from Classic EQ all the way until the end of Prophecy of Ro. So this class is actually added in Gates of Discord, which is about in the middle of this era. So the reason I decided to end this guide at the end of Prophecy of Ro is because the game changes a lot as time goes on. Devs kind of balance out all of the classes, balance out all of the content, give classes a whole bunch of new AAs and skills, etc., and eventually they kind of develop a pattern that just kind of continues with each time they raise the level cap after Prophecy of Ro. So future class guides will be their own thing, and the earlier eras, the classic era, will be their own thing. So this video is just going to basically read the guide that you see on screen right here. I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm going to more or less go over the guide, give different details, and give you basically an audio version to go along with the written guide. I know there's people out there who prefer listening rather than reading, and this video is kind of more or less for people like you. So, my experience on a Berserker during this era is quite limited. I do have a decent amount of experience on Berserkers after this era when they start using decap and things of that nature. So that's something to keep in mind. All of the research documents that I've used to make this guide are found at the bottom. If you would like to double check my research or see where I got it from or where I got all of this information from, by all means, you can check it out down there. I do also have, like I said, a decent amount of experience on Berserkers past this era, so I do know how their burns work. I do know how their class works to a decent extent. So, since Berserkers are added in Gates of Discord, you will never struggle with maxing out your stats. You want to focus on strength and dexterity the most. That will buff your melee DPS. And you're also going to want to get attack on your gear. This is a secondary stat, but it is going to increase your damage too. As far as survivability, you're going to want stamina, agility, HP, and armor class. They're going to be the most important ones for you to get. And that's really all you want as far as stats go. So once Planes of Power is released, you're going to start noticing heroic stats on gear. And this is going to become more and more and more common as each expansion goes on until eventually basically every piece of gear is going to have heroic stats on it. As a Berserker, you're going to primarily want heroic dexterity, heroic agility, heroic strength, and heroic stamina. Out of all four of those, heroic strength is the worst by far. And heroic dexterity is going to be the most important for damage. Agility and stamina are the most important for survivability. And let me tab into EQ real fast and show you. If you open your inventory and you click on stats, and then you go to accuracy here, see this heroic mod section in the top right? If you mouse over the integers on the right hand side here, you're going to be able to see basically how much each heroic point gives you of this stuff and what your soft caps are. Each heroic stat is going to come with soft caps. And this basically means that it's going, like, once you get 25 points of heroic strength, for example, you're not going to be able to get more benefit out of these. So this would actually be a hard cap. So this right here would be your, for example, it gives 4 points up to 150 heroic dexterity. After you get past 150 heroic dexterity, it's going to start giving you less. And that would be the soft cap. You basically, once you get past 150, you're going to hit diminishing returns, is the way to look at it. And all you have to do is mouse over these in order to figure out where your soft caps / hard caps are and what your diminishing returns will be. So that's something to keep in mind and something that's good for you to know. So, now that we got the heroic stats out of the way, or actually before we're completely done with heroic stats, I'd recommend you check out my Everquest Heroic Stats Guide, which you see on screen here. This will give you a whole bunch of information about heroic stats, such as what they do, etc., and which ones are most important for various classes. And I also link to other resources that will explain what heroic stats do and how they all work. And just in case you don't trust my information or you would like to see, my research or corroborating information, that's where you'll find it. So back to the Berserker guide. So important focus effects. Haste is not really a focus effect, but it is extremely important for you, and you're going to want to make sure you have haste on your gear. So focus effects they start to become a lot more common in Omens of War. And you'll eventually, in Omens of War, be able to get augmentations that you can put into your gear that will give you certain focus effects. And I think Lost Dungeons of Norath allows this too, although I could be wrong. So for Berserkers, you're going to want Cleave and Ferocity as your two main focus effects. They're both going to give you DPS increases. And then pretty much all of the other increases will be survivability. Improved dodge, improved parry/block. Both of them are survivability. You're going to want to get them to basically not die. Whenever you are taking damage, they'll help out. And then last but not least, sharpshooting is another one that you want to pay attention to. Eventually, once Dragons of Norath comes out, you're going to get a skill that you spam constantly called Destroyer's Volley. What this basically does is it will throw a volley of axes. You know those little axes that you craft on Berserkers? It will throw a volley of them at the enemy. And once you start incorporating that into your rotation, sharpshooting will give you a very minor amount of DPS because sharpshooting benefits throwing. So keep that in mind. So next section is important skills, AAs, and disciplines. So Berserkers are a pure melee class, which means you're going to be using mostly auto attack to increase your damage. You're also going to want to slash auto skill Frenzy, like you see here. That will allow you to basically, the game will auto fire Frenzy from then on, instead of you having to hit Frenzy each time. So obviously that's a big help. If you're playing on private servers or anything like that, auto skill might not be in the game, because like Berserkers are available in Everquest Titanium, whatever private servers use that old copy of the game. Auto skill won't be in that. It'll only be available on live server. And yes, it is available on TLPs. So you're also going to get skills like Head Crush, Leg Cut, and essentially what these two skills do is they will Head Crush stuns and Leg Cut is a snare. Both of them are situationally useful, mostly in solo or group content. I can't imagine you would ever want to use them in a raid scenario. And then we also have War Cry here. This is something you will be using in basically every scenario. So War Cry, what that does is, let me actually bring up the Alakazam. War Cry gives you 100 hands effect and it increases attack by 20. And basically throughout the game, Berserkers are going to get improved versions of their, for lack of better words, we'll call them cry spells, because it's like they all basically have cry in the name, if I'm not mistaken, and they all buff you and your group's attack and other melee stats, basically. Usually a short duration buff. I think it only lasts like 2 minutes, the first version of it, so you'll want to refresh that quite often. Another discipline that Berserkers get, which you'll be using a lot, is your summoning axes. And then I also brought up Destroyer's Volley earlier too, which once that's added, that will use your summoning axes. Honestly, until Destroyer's Volley is added, I don't find myself using summoning axes all that much. I know they kind of intended for you to use them to pull enemies, but I usually don't. So, AAs. Since we're going to go over AAs, let me tab into the game. And we'll show them in here, since it will give us a little bit more details in here. So in the early expansion, Lucklin, you're going to get a Tireless Sprint, which is And you're also going to get Rampage, which is garbage until later. Eventually, you'll get enough points into Rampage that like lower the cooldown of it and make it more useful, but it's not that great. Warriors get it too, and it's not that great there either. So, Desperation. This, you can see it increases your overhaste. So, I believe this does not stack with Bard's increase to overhaste. So, you have to keep that in mind. If there's a Bard in your group, it's probably not going to be as useful. You might not want to use it. Untamed Rage. I believe this becomes one of your main clicky burns. And it is funny that you do have AAs for Lucklin, even though you're not in the game at that time yet. I found that interesting as well. Dragons of Norath adds nothing. Let's see. Depths of Dark Hollow adds mass group buff. Really, the only thing you can use that for is your War Cry. And Prophecy of Road doesn't add anything either. So let's give one last precursory. Basically, all all of your class burns come later, it seems. Yep. That's more or less everything. We covered it all. As you can see, a lot of your burns, a lot of your useful burns come later in the game. Seeds of Destruction adds a few. Reign of Fear also adds a few. So do House of Thule. You also get a few in Broken Mirror and Beyond too that most classes don't get. So yeah, you don't get very many AAs. Oh, I actually passed these. Blood Pack and Savage Spirit. We almost missed them for a second. So let's go back to Omens of War, because I actually do remember these two. These two are some of your most important burn AAs, especially this Savage Spirit here. You're going to want to use this more or less every single time that you pop your burns, and I'm pretty sure a Blood Pack is used too at the same time. Yes. So, and Untamed Rage, like I said, these all become staples of your class. Untamed Rage, Blood Pact, Savage Spirit, you're going to be using those. So offensive disciplines, and we'll talk about this later when we go over your burn rotation too. So don't worry, we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Your offensive disciplines, this is where to buy them if you're unsure. You're going to get Cleaving Rage and Cleaving Anger and Unpredictable Rage in Gates of Discord. Although Unpredictable Rage, level 66, if it comes out in Gates, I would be pretty surprised. Let's see. Yes, it's Omens of War. It's not Gates. I'll have to fix that on my site. So Vengeful Flurry, you get this in Omens too. This will is one of your other burns. Basically, this Cleaving Anger is your best burn that you're going to be using for a while. And I'm pretty sure that's replaced by... Or no, sorry. Cleaving Anger is what you'll use, and Vengeful Flurry is secondary. So defensive disciplines. As you can see, Reckless, Battle Focus, those are the two main defensive discs that you'll get. If you're a soloer, you may end up using them. If not, you probably won't use them. So now we're diving into the how to play Berserker. So, as I said before, most of your damage is going to come from auto attack, and really the main thing you want to do is slash auto skill Frenzy. That will auto fire Frenzy every single time it's up. And aside from that, you're going to spam Destroyer's Volley. That's going to be your main spamming skill in this era. And Warcry. That's also going to be something you're going to be hitting too. So you want to make sure the Warcry is up at all times, and you keep Destroyer's Volley down. Down meaning it's on cooldown, you're constantly using it. And Warcry being up means the buff is applied to you. So you can see here, this is your burns. So Prophecy of Ro, your main burn is going to consist of popping Battle Cry, and then you're going to use Cleaving Rage, Untamed Rage, Savage Spirit, and Blood Pact. All of those the main reason you're going to use all of those at the same time is because all of those stack with each other and they will multiply your damage. That's very important. And in the future, as time goes on, you're going to want to learn what AAs and discs stack with each other. That way you can use all of them at the same time and multiply your damage as much as possible. So after your burns, your first set of burns fade, you want to do a secondary burn, which is Cleaving Anger, a Glyph if you're going to use your Glyph, and your Epic 2.0 when you get your Epic 2.0. And as it says here, you want Shamans to use their 2.0 along with your 2.0 for the most benefit. And then if the mob is still alive, you want to use Vengeful Flurry. That's the final thing you'll want to do, as far your final burn, as they call it. And that's really all there is to it. That's really how to play a Berserker. It's very, very straightforward and very easy in this era. You more or less turn on auto attack and press some buttons at the right time. At least until you get Destroyer's Volley. Once you get Destroyer's Volley, that's when you'll actually be, spamming a button with each fight. Until then, you basically hit auto attack and just watch the screen. But anyway, that's all there is to it. If you guys would like to see my research documents here, make sure you click on these at the bottom. You can see where I got this information from, and you can get some additional information for yourself. And if this video helped you out, be sure to leave me a like because that helps me out. And if I got anything wrong or missed anything, please let me know in the comment section below. Aside from that, I will catch you guys around in future Everquest videos. Peace.